I'm sorry.
I really apologize. I'm getting mixed messages from two different people here, so I'm gonna take the one that's needed.
Barb, do you want us to break right now, or do you want us to continue?
I would like us to continue, please.
All right. I'm sorry, that threw me off just a little. So I think we're gonna revisit some of what Dr. Jenkins just spoke to in terms of the administration's recommendation, just to make sure that that's coming across clearly. But I'm gonna open us for discussion after you read your resolution, so we kind of keep moving through the conversation. And I'm sorry about that. Chris, do you want to speak to the resolution, and then when we open for discussion, I'll just start us out with the administration's recommendation again?
So go ahead and read it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So, before I start reading this, I just want to say that lots of people on the board, on the administration, and, among our staff were involved in getting this to the table, and I want to just make sure that thanks and appreciation are extended to everyone who has been working on this issue, especially our medical advisors, who've been working tirelessly to make sure that we're following the plan. All right. MMSD board resolution supporting mandatory COVID vaccination for all employees. Whereas the global COVID-19 pandemic has disrupted children's education and taken a toll on their social and emotional well-being for the past 17 months, and whereas the U.S. Centers for Disease Control has prioritized safely returning students to in-person learning in the fall of 2021, and whereas the Madison Metropolitan School District has prioritized the safety of students, staff, and families when opening schools this fall, and in consultation with its medical advisors, has developed an approach using multiple layers of mitigation strategies, including vaccination, to prevent the transmission of COVID-19 in school settings. And whereas nationally, the proportion of COVID-19 cases attributed to the Delta variant of the virus is projected at 98.8% as of August 14th, and this variant is more than twice as contagious as previously dominant variants. And whereas the Centers for Disease Control has stated that vaccination is the leading public health prevention strategy to end the COVID-19 pandemic, and that vaccination can help schools safely return to in-person learning as well as extracurricular activities and sports. And whereas there is currently no approved vaccine for children under the age of 12. And whereas the U.S. government is requiring COVID-19 vaccination for federal employees and contractors. And California and New York are leading the way in requiring that government workers get vaccinated or submit to weekly testing. And whereas urban school districts, including Chicago, Los Angeles, and New York, are requiring that staff get vaccinated against COVID-19 or get tested regularly. And whereas the City of Madison and Dane County have mandated that employees be vaccinated against COVID-19 or undergo weekly testing. And whereas the U.S. Food and Drug Administration has fully approved the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine for people aged 16 and older, moving it beyond emergency use status. And whereas the U.S. Department of Justice and Equal Opportunity Commission have deemed that workplaces can legally require employees to be vaccinated, with accommodations for medical and religious exemptions. Therefore, be it resolved that the district administration, in consultation with Madison Teachers, Inc. and the assistant principal and principal group, will develop a plan for mandatory COVID-19 vaccines for all employees, which shall be implemented following a vote as set forth below. And be it further resolved that the plan includes information on the means by which employees will verify their vaccination status, and the means by which employees may request an accommodation or waiver pursuant to the requirements of the ADA, Title VII of the Civil Rights Act, and other federal and state laws that may require waiver options, and implementation of employer-placed COVID testing protocols for non-vaccinated staff, aligned with current recommendations from our panel of medical experts and administered in accordance with federal and state medical confidentiality requirements, including HIPAA requirements. And be it further resolved that the administration present this plan to the Board of Education for discussion no later than the September 20th, 2021 Operations Work Group meeting, with a vote on the plan at the September 27th, 2021 regular Board of Education meeting.
Thank you. I want to open for discussion before voting on the resolution. Yes.
Yeah, I would just like to start by saying I've been attending the metrics meetings weekly that have been going on to ask questions from the board perspective and community perspective, and to participate in the problem solving around the challenges of opening our schools this fall and keeping students and staff safe. And I'd like to thank Dr. Jenkins, our district administrators, our medical advisors for recommending this step forward. The start of the school year will be different from what we anticipated early June when we finished school last year. The unpredictability of this virus and the changing conditions have required us to pivot, to make decisions, to adjust guidelines and practices at the school level, to bring students and staff back to school with strong prevention and mitigation measures in place. I agree that a vaccine mandate for all district staff is an important strategy among multiple strategies to prevent the spread of COVID in our schools. And to quickly review those other important strategies include wearing masks indoors, COVID testing for symptomatic students and staff, contact tracing and quarantining for exposure to positive cases, distancing, and ensuring that students and staff who are sick stay home. Back to the vaccinations. Vaccinations for COVID are effective and they're safe, especially after the full FDA approval of the Pfizer vaccine. The decision to require vaccines for staff makes sense, is supported by science, and protects individuals, as well as those who are not yet eligible for the vaccine, including our students under the age of 12. And so I look forward to the discussion tonight and hearing the opinions of my board colleagues, and I fully support this recommendation.
Thank you so much, Board Member Gomez-Schmidt. Any other conversation from board members? I see Savian, Ananda, and then Chris. Board Member Castro?
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone who worked on this in the time being so we can pull this off in time for the school year. And I just want to give a general message to, those who will be working in our schools, all the staff. I do hope that all of us get vaccinated as soon as possible. The board, we do have to follow a guideline in terms of passing this policy and mandate, but I don't think that precludes individuals from going out and getting the vaccine as soon as possible, if not already vaccinated. I do think that it's all hands on deck to mitigate and minimize this pandemic as it affects our schools, so we can keep doors open. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Board Member Castro. Board Member Morelli?
Yeah, thank you so much, Board Member Carusi, for working so diligently on this recommendation, on this resolution, and thank you everyone that have been working a lot over this past month to both understand where we are and then to address this not new virus, but new version of a virus, and the complications that brings for us. Thank you so much, Board President Muldrow, for opening this space for us to have this conversation, because it's real time and sensitive. I have a couple of comments in regards to the language that we're using around making something mandatory and making something a recommendation. Right now, our teachers are already recommended to have a set of vaccines, and I think in the context that we are, both politically and otherwise, language does matter. So I would like to offer a thinking around if there is enough energy among my colleagues to potentially review that language and then to make a recommended for our staff. The other piece that I would elevate is that the great support that we have from our union, from our teachers union, in regards to where we are. I think it's important to make it salient that Madison School District is potentially the school district with the highest number of vaccinated teachers, and that's something for us to be proud of. I want us to continue to work on making that information transparent as a point of pride, and as a point of also to make it really explicit our commitment to making sure that both our teachers and our students are safe in our schools. Thank you so much, President Woodrow.
Thank you so much, Board Member Morelli, Board Member Carusi.
So a couple things. First of all, the main comment I received once this went up on board docs is are we going fast enough? Is trying to put a mandate in place by the end of September too slow? I completely understand that this isn't just a matter of saying, hey, everybody go out and get a shot. We have to come up with a system to protect everybody's privacy while collecting some very sensitive medical information. So we have to proceed cautiously. But I'm wondering if there's anything we can do if we're saying we're going to have potentially a vaccine mandate by the end of September. Can we start doing clinics, or can we start doing anything to encourage staff to get vaccinated sooner, before the mandate goes into effect? Just wanted to put that out there because it's a safety thing, and I totally understand people who are saying, can we speed this up for safety? The second thing I wanted to say is I do feel that because we're in the middle of a global pandemic, saying that this is mandatory is okay. Like if we were in the middle of a measles pandemic, we might want to make our measles vaccine mandatory for people. That said, I do think it's very important that we respect the need for accommodation, both under the ADA and under state law. And state law does allow for accommodations for religious reasons, for medical reasons, and for philosophical reasons. So given the fairly broad accommodation policy that is in Wisconsin state law, I do feel comfortable going forward with the stronger language of the mandate.
Board Member Vandermeulen.
Yes, so people can read lips, I am taking off my mask in case any are lip readers out there. I'm very for being for mandatory vaccination requirement. I think it's necessary for it to be referred to as mandatory because it is that serious a situation. And to amplify what Chris Carusi said, Board Member Carusi stated, there are exceptions for medical. There are exceptions for religious freedom, both of which are absolutely essential. But we have approximately 14,000 juveniles who are in the elementary schools, a large number who are under age 12, and we need to do everything we possibly can to support these kids. I come from an autistic community in which vaccines were seen and where vaccines divided the community, with some believing that autism was caused by vaccines, and that was wrong. Therefore, for once, I want to be able to safely follow the science and say we have received FDA approval and that this is an important step into making sure every child is as safe as possible until they're old enough to be vaccinated. And I thank Chris Carusi for drafting this resolution.
Thank you, Board Member Vandermeulen. I want to thank our administration for all the work they've done to promote vaccination since teachers became eligible to be vaccinated. I know it feels like 3 million years ago, but La Follette did provide a vaccination clinic. So this administration has really tried to make sure that our teachers, our educators, our staff have access to vaccination as essential workers. And I think that we have to acknowledge that as we move forward. I am critical of the language around mandate, in part because I think we have to recognize that our workforce has gone above and beyond to mitigate the risk of spreading COVID in a variety of ways. And I think, wanting to ensure the safety of our educators and students is something that we have to be able to work together to do. And so it's a collaborative and cooperative process. And I think that, you know, the other conversation we have to have is how do we interact with folks who are opting out of vaccination, or vaccination is not safe for them. And so ensuring our staff that vaccination isn't going to be leveraged as a way to, you know, hurt folks professionally is something that I think we're responsible for communicating around as a board. I do want to recognize all of the work that Chris Carusi put into this resolution. I deeply agree with this resolution and the process she engaged in to create this resolution. I also want to thank Mike Jones for being, you know, very consistently a partner of this board and of this administration in terms of this effort, including, you know, thanking him for his remarks as part of our press conference on Friday. With that being said, if there's no further discussion, I want to turn it over to Dr. Jenkins to just one more time reiterate what you opened us up with in terms of the administration's recommendation. I'll then ask for a second in terms of the resolution, and we will vote on the resolution after we get the advisory vote, and then close out this meeting. Ananda, before we do all of that.
I just, thank you so much, President Muldrow. I was hoping that Dr. Jenkins will reiterate the continued work with the teachers that are going to have to be excused of this resolution or this mandate, and what are some of the things that the administration is doing to address the other point in regards to making vaccines accessible, and what you're thinking for timeline too. So thank you so much. I know you and your team have been working diligently around this.
Okay, thank you so much for those comments as well, Board Member Morelli. And let me just say, first of all, I'm so glad that we had this discussion with the board before my second round of comments, because this is why this has actually come about, our community, just the whole idea around the humanity of other individuals. This is huge. The discussion when we started out some 18 months ago about the science and the impact that this health pandemic was having on everyone, we had to think about it, the humanity of our individuals, our community demographics, and how everyone was being impacted. So we've been in this, and I'm glad, Chris, you mentioned week to week, we've been having our medical advisors, and I tell you, we have some of the best medical advisors you can find anywhere in the world, and my colleagues tell me that. And so getting to this particular point, we've been on a long journey. We didn't know. We knew that we had COVID-19, but this Delta 2 variant, we knew it was coming along, but it has also sped up. We were not in June where we are now, but I have to say the collaboration with everyone and at the table. You have the APP, you have our administrators, you have the teachers union, you have board members. We're all in this together, and I really do appreciate the way that this has come about. When Board Member Carusi said the resolution and everything she said in it, and also Board Member Morelli, it speaks to working even together with the implementation plan to assure that we're going to work together to assure those individuals who may have some degree of exceptionality, which is there by state statute anyway, but we're there to try to assist. But we know that we're all still doing what we need to do to make sure that our children 12 and under 12, are going to be safe. I am like Board Member Muldrow, who not necessarily believe in myself mandates, but when it's a greater good for all in the safety of our children, I could not dare step back and knowing the science of this and not want to come forward with the recommendation from the administration to say, we need to do a mandate. But I also recognize the psychological impact for some individuals who've been a little bit nervous. We know that communities are impacted differently, so we're going to have to reach out, go the extra step, Board Member Morelli, to ensure, like having Dr. Henderson, African-American doctor who's been there with us the entire time, going into certain communities, Black and brown communities have a different impact. And we know this, 40% at this particular point are vaccinated, and there are other things we have to do from a psychological standpoint. Our doctors, Dr. Demir he's standing ready to go in and have additional conversations with individuals to assist them. And however we can be there for them, we're gonna be there. At the end of the day, we still have to take our children's health at the end of the day over everything else. And it's not gonna be easy. Yes, we're excited right now, but the tough work is to come. And so to try to get that timeline in there, though I would love to see it happen tonight, that's not realistic. We have to think through this together, put a plan together, to look forward how we can logistically pull this off. We do know this, as we work together, we can accelerate our plan, but we have to have a great degree of intentionality to ensure that the social, emotional, mental health, well-being of everyone is also at the front of what we're doing while we're trying to make sure our children are safe. And then we can stay in school longer. That is the hope. We can stay in school longer and doing all the mitigation strategies, which Christian did a great job of listing those out. So I hope I answered your question. If I didn't, let me know.
Thank you for speaking to that, Dr. Jenkins. I know, I wanted to make sure that Board Member Pearson got an opportunity to speak, as well as Nama, and then Chris Carusi, I'll bring us back to you.
Is it related to the superintendent comment? Okay. Thank you for letting me speak. And I just wanted to say thank you for the entire community that was emailing and calling and pulling us aside in grocery stores and talking with us about this. As a person who has a child who is in that under 12-year-old who are unable to get the vaccination, and also part of the group of students who have issues with their immune system, it's a real concern in my household with going into the fall. It's also a concern in my community, which is heavily people of color. And so I agree with Board President and Member Morelli about using the language and being very sensitive of how we roll that out and how we state what we need to. I also agree with finding ways, as you already spoke about, of how to talk with our communities that are more vulnerable and to may not trust in the science all the way. And so I always caution about how we mandate things for folks. Although I may be in support of it, I just wanted to say that I think it's important that we all understand, like we keep saying, the science, but understand that the vaccinations are to help with when it comes to actual symptoms and not, all the way death, of course. So it's not a way for us to say that no one will get sick, and it's not a way to say that it's true prevention in a way of we may not have children that are sick. I say that because I also think that mandating teachers without, in some ways, mandating the community at whole to have vaccinations, whether that is parents, whether that are grandparents, whether those are folks just in the community, I think I always hesitate with using that. So I am in agreement that we need to find some ways to ensure that our teachers and our staff are going to interact with our students safely and that our students are as safe as possible, but also understanding that even if we do so, that there is that real potential that the variants and COVID will enter our schools in other ways. And so that's really all I wanted to say. I'm ready to keep going forward and trying to figure out the best way to mitigate, and understanding that we have to use all ways, and not just only on our teachers, our staff, our schools, but as a community to figure it out together.
Thank you so much, Board Member Pearson. Board Member Vandermeulen, I see your hand, but I saw Board Member Carusi before you, and I also wanted to give Nama a chance to speak. Nama?
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, Board Member Carusi, Superintendent Jenkins, and all the teachers working for this resolution. I think it's going to be very beneficial, and I think it's providing the right resources and safety for not just the students, but also teachers, so they feel comfortable coming back and teaching us and providing us an education. So thank you so much for proposing this and drafting this. From the students, I think we really appreciate it, and all the work that you've been doing to get us a safe return back to school. Kind of bouncing off of Board Member Pearson, I also think that language and providing that sort of comfort among students in different communities is very important. And I think that as we work towards passing this resolution, I think making sure we're focusing on that would also be very beneficial, and making sure that all communities just know that, you know, they're going to be safe in our school and our district, and we want to provide the best for them. So that's all I wanted to say, but thank you for providing me the space to do so.
Thank you so much for speaking to that, Nama. Board Member Carusi and then Board Member Vandermeulen.
So, my final comment is just, I want to give a quick shout out to Milwaukee Public Schools. A couple of weeks ago, they passed a similar resolution, which was an inspiration for this one. I just want to thank them for taking the leadership and being the first. And I also noticed that I think they have sped up the timeline for their resolution in that regard, so.
Thank you so much for acknowledging where, you know, where we've been influenced within this work.
Yes.
Board Member Vandermeulen.
One, I want to thank Maya for her comments. I think they were incredibly well said. And as having an individual in a family that is immunocompromised, obviously this is a concern, and I definitely feel for you on that. I am not, and I respect that. And I wanted to thank you for that. The reason I use the word mandate is because the law is very clear on the opt-out procedures. If the law was not clear on the opt-out procedures, I wouldn't. The procedures were originally put in place in 1905 on whether or not you could have an employee, whether an employee could fire or hire someone and make them get vaccinated in Massachusetts v. Jacobson in the U.S. Supreme Court. That language was again used in the Seventh Circuit, upholding the mandatory vaccinations at Indiana University, a public school. We have 14,000 students. As much as I don't like forcing things that I don't, I'm terrified that if we don't make it mandatory, kids are going to get sick, and they still might. But I want to do absolutely everything, and that's why I'm so hung up on it. And I respect everyone's opinion, and I understand everyone comes from a different community and a different view. That just happens to be mine.
Thank you, Board Member Vandermeulen, Superintendent Jenkins, and then I will come to you, Board Member Gomes-Schmidt.
I just want to just state real quick that let's not underscore the collaboration of this, everyone. And thank you to the many parents who stopped me in the community about it, and some who were skeptical, but also asked about will we have other opportunities for individuals who can't take the shots for whichever reason, right? But what's happened here with our MTI, our Administrators Association, being at the table, working through this together, and this hasn't been easy. Chris been there every week at the meetings. We didn't just come up with this. This has been tough, so I appreciate all the comments tonight and know that we're going to move forward together still and making sure we have the best plan possible. So thank you.
Board Member Gomes-Schmidt.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a comment and, I guess, reassure people that there is going to be a process for accommodations if people need that for medical reasons or religious reasons. And with that, I would expect with, like other organizations have done, there would be a testing requirement that would go with that, if for some reason there was an exemption needed from that. So this will be a process, and it's not like we can mandate it today and it happens overnight. And so we are going to be thoughtful, and I thank Dr. Jenkins and everyone for speaking to that.
Yeah, and Chris, I just want to thank you for all of the work that you've done very specifically with our medical experts in order to inform this decision and inform this conversation among board members. With that being said, I am comfortable moving to vote. If I can get a second on the resolution, or I second Nikki Vandermeulen.
Yep.
Nama, your advisory vote?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 7-0. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Sorry, Nama, your advisory vote?
Aye.
Thank you so much. Motion carries 7-0. All right, we will log off and log back in.
Thank you.
Ms. Burt,
Nicely done, everybody.
Really nice.